I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mary Claire Pete for this presentation. Mary Claire Pete is a senior economic education specialist at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, where she develops economic content, including lessons, online learning modules, videos, and interactives. Prior to joining the Federal Reserve, she was the director of curriculum at Marginal Revolution University, MRU, and has held several other education-related roles, including middle school teacher, textbook editor, and data specialist. She is currently on the board of directors of the Journal of Economics Teaching. She has a master's degree in education and a PhD in economics. And with that, let me introduce you to Dr. Mary Claire Pete.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So good after lunch. Hope you guys are having a great session. How many people have already attended great sessions already? So this is probably your third or fourth today, is that right? So I do not need to introduce myself, so we can probably just get started here. Oh yes, I do need to give a disclaimer. Views are my own and do not represent any official positions of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis or anyone else. Now, again, if you've ever attended a presentation, you will see these lines. So don't take anything that I'm saying as gospel. All right, for our roadmap today, the first thing I was going to do is play a game, sort of, which will be setting off the personal finance gurus versus the economists. And the matchup is about how do you pay off credit card debt? So what do the personal finance gurus say versus what do the economists say? And then we'll go more generally into more resources for teaching personal finance, active learning lessons, videos, etc. I want to make sure before I get started, I get to ask you a question. So first off, in the chat, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Mark introduced me, but I'd love to learn about you. So if you could just put in the chat your name, grade level, years taught, so it'll help orient what I'm presenting today. Perfect. What? 43 years? How is this possible? I believe you should be teaching this. All right, wonderful. K-5, grade 8, first grade, grade 7. Okay, and I'm going to say good. I think I was making the assumption that all of you were doing some form of personal finance, but it's helpful to know if you're trying to figure out how to incorporate personal finance into one of your other classes. Thank you so much. This is great. Cool. And then next question for you all. How are you celebrating Personal Finance Month? I'm sure you've already found out that April is Personal Finance Month. I'd love to hear in the chat. High school, 8 years, great. Good, saving for Ireland. That is my favorite answer so far. So I've given a lot of presentations this week, and that one is a great one. I'm having a little personal finance tree set up and having personal finance gifts set up underneath the personal finance tree. Wonderful. Spending time with you. That is buttering me up. It's working, but that's a great answer. All right. Wonderful and welcome. Cool. Yes, that is a great. Paid my taxes. Excellent. Okay. So I'm having a little bit of trouble. Okay, we're going to get into quiz time now. Now this is not multiple choice right now. I just want you guessing. All right, giving up your best guess here. Now this is a little confusing, but basically there's been a survey out, it was a few years ago, and it surveyed Americans. What % of Americans do you think said they would not make a major purchase on their credit card unless they could pay it off immediately? What % of Americans said, no, not going to put that on my credit card unless I know I can pay it off immediately? Would love to see this in the chat, and hopefully I can see this. Okay, good. All right, we see a 45%, 75. Oh, now I'm seeing some people are answering both, which I love. So somebody said 20, 80, 13. Okay, so I'm asking for the first one, which is great. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. And now that next question. Okay, so the first one, if you're seeing it, the first one that I asked you about is getting at what people say they do. Okay, the second question, the second one statement, is what people actually do. Okay, so what percent of cardholders carry a balance on their credit card each month? What percent of cardholders carry a balance? And it's kind of saying the opposite, right? Okay, good. Okay, 99%. Yes, okay. So one thing I should say actually is I may have like 2022 numbers or 2021. So this may have changed, but just so you know, here are our answers. 75% of Americans say, no, I would never put that on my credit card unless I could pay it off immediately. And we have 65% of cardholders carrying a balance on their credit cards each month. Now, this could be higher now, honestly. You know, I think when I pulled it, it was a year ago. And things have changed. Okay, but the big point here is to say most Americans have credit cards, and a lot of Americans and, you know, global citizens have debt, credit card debt. This is a real thing. So we're going to play a scenario. Okay, and the scenarios we're going to play, the scenario we're going to play will be related to whether somebody who has two credit cards with some amount of debt on them, okay? Some amount of debt, and you wanted to start paying off more than that minimum balance, right? You were doing a good job, or Susie was doing a good job and paying off that minimum balance, but now it's time to tackle, right? We're trying to like pay this off a little faster. What's the best strategy for doing so? So I'm going to give you some options here. Tackle the credit card with the bigger balance. Now, you're always paying that minimum balance. I want to make sure, right, on both of them. But if you've got any extra money, where are you going to put that extra money? To the credit card with the bigger balance, credit card with the smaller balance, higher interest rate, lower interest rate, or none of these options? All right, I'm seeing, great. A lot of people are saying higher interest rate, smaller balance, debt snowball. Okay. All right. Very good. I'm liking these answers a lot. All right. And we will go on to our next personal finance gurus say, smaller balance first. So somebody in the chat said this, it's a snowball method. Hey, there it is, Skylar. Perfect. And the economists say higher interest rate first. Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. So there is a bit of a discrepancy here, right? Somebody said, so when I say personal finance gurus say this, what do I mean? So there was an economist recently who took the top 50 personal finance gurus according to, like, you know, book sales or something, right? And he categorized all of them, looked at all of the advice, and then compared it to what economists would recommend, right? Like what economic theory would recommend. And so what he found on this paying off multiple credit cards, majority, you know, over half, but it was probably like 60, 65% of personal finance gurus recommended doing the smaller balance first, right? So what this means is you're tackling, you know, you've got two credit cards, and if you could pay off one, right? It's the snowball method. You've got a quick win. You have this sense of accomplishment. You know how we feel when we check something off of our checklist, or, you know, we finished something and we realized we didn't put it on our checklist. So we write it on the checklist so we can cross it off. This is a quick win type of a thing. And then the economists say, hey, look, if you want to pay this off faster, you tackle the one with the higher interest rate, because that's charging you more money each month. And so if you put all your, you know, if you put the money towards that, then again, you'll pay off your credit card faster. So, and then sort of interestingly, what do you think most Americans actually do? Like if they have that scenario, right? They have two credit cards. What do you think they actually do? What behavior do they actually do? Okay, so yes, so let's just say pay the minimum, but like, yes, that's probably what they actually do. But if they were trying to pay off their credit card faster, what's the strategy? Okay, so I'm seeing paying off the smaller balance, make a plan not to spend. Yeah, let's see, where am I? Smaller balance. Okay, so most of you said smaller balance. Interestingly enough, what they found was that people actually split that money that they're, the money that they're going to give, they split it between the two credit cards. Okay, and they do it roughly proportionally. Skylar, really? Yes. So that is just the behavior that happens right now. If they look out how you're tackling multiple credit cards. Now, when I say all that, that's for the subset of people who are actually trying to tackle and pay off in higher amounts. Okay, so let me make sure I do this really. Okay, so who's right? Who's right? Anyone want to venture a guess? Okay. Okay, good. I like somebody putting it up. Yeah. Oh, somebody spoiled it. Okay, either, as long as you're paying it off. Okay. So the big thing here is, yes, depends. Okay. The cool thing about it, when you actually dig into it, and this is actually what the economists who did this research found, sort of admitted, is, it really depends on the person. The big thing that we all want to get to is that we want to pay off the credit card debt. So if you're the type of person that responds well to this quick win strategy, that's the right answer. Okay. If you are the type of person who, feels motivated by, oh, I'm doing this higher interest rate, I'm paying the higher interest rate, so I'm saving myself a little extra money by doing this strategy, so I feel really good about myself and I can stick to it, then that is the right strategy. And hey, if splitting the money, the difference between the two and paying off both at the same time makes you feel really good, that is the right strategy. The biggest thing is to get to that finish line, optimizing, technically, if you were to pay off the higher interest and target there first, you would pay it off faster, you would pay a little less money. But the really important thing is to get rid of the credit card debt. And I want to make sure okay. Average American has 3 to 4. So I did not tackle that issue, but the same kind of thing applies, right? And so it will depend on your situation. It will depend on the type of person you are. And this is kind of where behavioral economics comes into play, right? So, economists can tell you what the, quote unquote, optimization answer is, but if it doesn't resonate with you and get you to the finish line, then that's not the right answer. Oh gosh, I think it's very, very, very high. I didn't realize it was 30%. Does anybody? So, okay, so I wanted to just quickly show you, let me see if I can get there. I should have done this a little bit differently. Actually, let me just quickly I'm gonna just transition. I apologize, I should have had this a little bit better, but okay. So I wanted to quickly show you that example that I gave you. We've actually created a resource for it. And I wanted to sort of show it to you. This may or may not be, depending on the age group that you're working with students, it may not be the appropriate thing, but I wanted to show you how what we do is, with our page 1 articles, we sort of take a timely topic or an interesting thing that's happening in the news, and we have a short article and then questions after. And so let me show you the beginning of this very quickly. And half of them are called Focus on Finance because they are specifically personal finance topics. And so why we did this is, the ideal state would be to be able to choose very relevant topics that are in the news, right? You're showing them, students are actually reading news articles and they're picking up personal finance lessons or content. But most of the time, a news article just isn't quite written with that in mind, right? They're written for the general audience. They're not written as a teaching tool. And so what we sort of done with these is try to do it in a very friendly, conversational tone, but still cover relevant topics, relevant, terms, and define them properly and help the student actually make that connection between the real world and what is happening in their personal finance class or economics class or something. And so what you'll see is we have a glossary, and then we define any words. We bold them the first time they appear. We also have graphs and a few other fun things. And so then at the very end, we have a quiz, that you can use for your students. And I really like it because it's very simple language. It's not too difficult for students. And so I want to show you where this is very quickly. Let me see if I can get to just page 1 so you can see the whole thing. Here we go. So I'll put this in the chat now. Oh, and Skylar, I apologize. You were asking if it was 30% as a question. I apologize. I honestly don't know the answer, but I think it's quite high. I don't know if it's that high. So this is where all of our page 1 resources are. And again, what you can see here is that here's a focus on finance. So these are all the personal finance ones, the focus on finance. And we do have some that have been specifically written with a middle school lesson in mind. And so you can take advantage of that as well. Again, we haven't done as many as we'd like to, but we wanted to try that out as well. So here's another one. You want an extended warranty. More general, I want to actually, let me show you one more thing here before I toggle back. So just again, it's research based. So what you'll see is most of the things we've taken in my example, but in everybody's, any of the page 1s, we're taking usually, academic research and sort of tying it into the literature, or we're taking something that's in the news relevant and rewriting it with that eye of we're teaching some of the personal finance concepts and making sure that we're covering it. So we've mapped it to standards as well. We are using the national standards, the voluntary CEE standards. So they might not necessarily be, perfectly aligned with yours, but we try to, we want it to actually embed within a personal finance framework. Oopsies, whoa. I didn't want to show you the answer to anything. Okay, I lost it for a second, hold on. Okay, so I apologize, we're gonna have to go through again. All right, who is right? We're all right, okay. And of course, I should have said this before, if you are not familiar with the St. Louis Fed, all of this is free. So anything I'm previewing today is obviously free, and you should be able to use it immediately in your classroom. If there are any questions, please ask. Okay, so before I dive into a few other resources that I wanted to showcase, I want to ask a few questions before doing so to make sure that I can target it a little bit better. So what are your students asking about these days in personal finance related? Anything, are they coming to you with questions? Yes. Okay, taxes. I was waiting for someone to say Bitcoin or crypto, right? Anything else? So these are great. Taxes, investing, and Bitcoin. Okay, oh, house, okay, good. Wow, and a car, yes. Okay. So I was a middle school teacher once, and so I tried to guess what I thought most of your students would be interested in. And I missed the house. But how do I choose a college or career, right? Should I go to college? Should I not? How do I save for buying a car? Yeah, income taxes, because 'tis the season to be asking. And finally, that Bitcoin crypto, is it an investment? Is this a get rich quick scheme? How does this work? So let me make sure. And then I want to hear from you. What are you teaching next week? Great. Good. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Perfect. That's great. So that's helpful for me as I sort of, okay. So I guessed, based on the standards, I guessed that it was going to be insurance diversification, managing credit, and income taxes. So I did not get budgeting, but we can show budgeting. So never, fear not. Okay. Oops. What happened there? I don't know why that happened. Okay. All right. So first I wanted to showcase some active learning lessons. And because I think, it's one of the best ways to learn. Research indicates getting your students actively engaged rather than passively helps and further embed memories and retention. So what I wanted to show you then were a few things to get started as you're looking through some of our resources. So again, I'm going to share this and then put it in the chat. Why? Okay. Sorry, you'd think that I would have, we're 3 years into the pandemic and we still have tech issues. Love it. All right, so here is the first thing I wanted to show you. Where do recessions come from? Wow, okay, wonderful. So I will get that in a second. What I want to show you first is this, it's your paycheck curriculum unit. So I dubbed this the everything bagel. And the reason is it's an entire curriculum. So if you want to sort of just get started with orienting yourself about, hey, what is the Fed, what kind of resources does the Fed have? This is a great place to start. I'd like to, so I hope that you are also looking through things right now. You're on this page, checking it out. The one I wanted to show you was this budget plan. So somebody said budgeting. So if we go to here, lesson 4, budgeting, you can see, and I've already scrolled through this. Basically, it's almost like, I'm sure we all played the game of life at one point in our in our youth. But I wanted to just show you a little bit like what this looks like, right? So a lesson plan would start with the standards and benchmarks, which will be at the end of the lesson, a quick lesson description, appropriate grade level, concepts, that compelling question, the thing that drives the entire lesson, and then student objectives, time required, materials. So then it goes through a procedure. At the very end, it will have all the handouts that you could need to do this lesson in your class tomorrow, in addition to assessment questions and a closure item, that bell ringer. And so what I don't want to get hung up here. If you guys are ignoring me now because you're looking at one of the lessons, that's the point. You should. That's great. But what I wanted to show you is, it basically has a game-like feature. Again, you can figure out if it's appropriate in high school or not, right? Middle school would probably be great, where you have different types of cards and things that happen to you. And, I think the main thing that I like about this lesson is making sure that people understand life happens. You can try to plan things and you can be doing this wonderful job planning, but these outside forces happen that it's nobody's fault sometimes. And how do you sort of adjust and account for that within your budgeting? I think sometimes we just talk about the rainy day fund, but this helps students visualize why you need a rainy day fund, and just that reminder of and also I think to help students understand that sometimes when things happen, or if people are, we just talked about, lots of people have credit card debt. Sometimes it's not, I think that there's a little bit of judgment sometimes, and this is not, things happen. And so it sort of helps people understand that everybody's situation is totally different, and sometimes things are outside of people's control. And how do you sort of visualize and adjust for that, and try to build resiliency? Are there any questions? And so the next one I wanted to profile was, this is just an individual lesson plan called Diversification and Risk. And the reason I wanted to profile is that it plays on that joke about, like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And since we, many people just had Easter egg hunts recently, you could probably get a good sale on plastic eggs if you wanted to play this in your classroom tomorrow. This one is a fun one because it sort of walks through. Oh, and let me just make sure I give this to you. Hold on. I'm going to put this in the chat. All right. And so the same idea, so I don't need to go through all of these per se, but what I love about this one is it sort of starts with an egg hunt. And, within each of those plastic eggs, there's different things that students will find out after, but they go searching for the eggs. And most of them will put it in one place or one basket. And so, it's sort of trying to drive home right at the beginning, hey, diversification is key when you're investing. And so don't put all those eggs that you collected in one basket. But then obviously it goes through a bunch of other things, the gradations of risk versus reward, and how students can adjust and make choices based on that. But just the thing to note about these lessons too is just they have an enormous amount of information. So you could be looking through it and say, I like this, and I like this visual, but you know what, I don't really love these questions, or they don't work for my students. You don't need to use the entire thing. You can pick and choose as you please. So I'm going to stop there for a second and see if we have any questions. I would say more generally, I would like to share this link with you as well, which is just all of the Fed's sort of print resources available. Now, the big thing is that we have a lot of stuff, okay? So if you are an active learning person, right, and you're just like, I don't do videos, I don't do, interactives, I just want something where the students are, using manipulatives, running around the classroom, etc. The best way to do that, if you're on this site, is to go to resource types and go to instructional guides. I think that's one of the best ways to do it. Lessons will probably also get you some. And then I would say, using these other filters liberally as well to get you to what you're looking for. So this was the one that I previewed. It's your paycheck. This is another everything bagel. It's got everything from the start to finish on active learning. If you liked the page ones that I was showing you earlier, the one about the credit card, you would go to publication, and I would actually, I'm going to uncheck that so you can start to see. And these are all of the focus on finance page ones, those articles basically. Now, one thing, which leads me to my next thing, which is crypto. Okay, so we have a few crypto resources about how to think about crypto. So the first one I wanted to highlight is called, it's a page one. We call it a page one, or focus on finance page one. And the reason I wanted to highlight it, oh yes, let me just make sure I get you. Let me show you this first. Let me give that to you. Oh, okay. I think this is a wonderful article that one of my colleagues has written. And because, you know, if you're like me, look, I didn't know the right answer on crypto, okay? It's early, there's still a lot of confusion about it. And so if you have questions about it, you know, that is normal. So I found this to be an incredibly readable, interesting article for myself. And, you know, your students can also access it. And so something I really liked here was she starts with the Super Bowl. Remember, we all know, like 2 Super Bowls ago, we had several movie stars promoting crypto. I don't know if you saw the Super Bowl that time, but there were several iconic advertisements. And so that sort of orients the conversation. You know, a lot of your students probably saw those. And so that's how you start. But the thing that I love about this article and the other one I'm going to show you really quickly is that you start to divvy up. And again, some of this is obvious, so you know, I apologize if I'm saying something too obvious. That so some people think about cryptocurrency as money, and some people think about it as an investment. And so trying to understand, if you were to think about it as money, is it good? Does it function well as money, as currency? And then you can walk through, you know, what is the function of money and what are the functions of money? And does crypto, does it actually fulfill those functions? And then if not, you know, how does it perform as an investment, right? So I think this is just a wonderful example and very simple, very readable. And then with questions at the end, as always. So if any of you are thinking, that's great, where's the teacher's, where's the answer key? I want an answer key, okay? I totally agree. And we have the answer key behind our Econ Lowdown teacher portal. So what is that? That is a place where anything that can be made into an online environment goes, so that you can take full advantage of auto grading features. So now I'm going to go to that unless there are any other questions. So I can show you what Econ Lowdown is, and then sort of the examples of where the teacher guide is and how auto grading works, and a few other resources there. Any questions? All right. With the last remaining, I think there's a few more minutes. So I'm going to give you this link. This is where Econ Lowdown is. I have already signed in, so let me just sign out very quickly so I can show you what this looks like, what it looks like for you. You should see this. Here's my instructor login already, but you can register for a free account if you'd like to. It's pretty straightforward. Again, we won't spam you. We won't do anything unless you want to be subscribed to our Econ Lowdown newsletter. We will not ever send you an email again. I promise. Okay. But once you log in, I wanted to show you our resource gallery first, just to give you a sense of how much stuff we have. Again, filters will be your friends when you are in Econ Lowdown. I just have to stress this again and again and again. This is going to be the most important thing because we have 600 resources. Right now, but I wanted to show you very quickly, and then I will, if you don't want to log in, I'm going to be able to show you some previews. So once I show you here, you can add a class, you can assign things to your students, and I'm happy to walk you through that, or I'm happy to do this at a later date if you'd like that, because I want to make sure you have everything you need. But I wanted to just show you a few of the resources. So this is Beyond the Hype, the page 1 that I just showed you over on the other side, which was just like, hey, here's a PDF. You can print it up. You can have your students read it. You can assign it. If you have it in here, you can, well, if I had students in this, I would be able to assign that to the students and then see their student progress. So here is the link to the teacher edition. And that would be, so you can, if you scroll all the way down, it's still, this part is still PDF, but you have the teacher's guide is here. And let me see if I can send this to you right now so you can have it. Let's preview the resource so I can see if I can send this. So this would be what your students would see, and you could see that they can guess once they've read the article, they would guess. And I'm just guessing, I'm not reading any of these right now, and I would submit. I mean, I have to finish the whole thing, but so you could assign it to your students. Let me see if I can showcase this one actually through the resource gallery. Let's see. I'm just going to try and find it very quickly in here so I can show you. I can preview the resource, and I will send you a copy right now so you can see it if you don't want to sign in just yet. But all right. With the last few minutes of our time, I wanted to showcase a few other things based on kind of what you said. So I'm going to go back to my classroom where I just am storing all the ones that I wanted to talk about. I think what I want to talk about is this resources about buying a car. So this is an online learning module that talks about, having a contract, buying a car, all those sorts of things, the costs and the benefits, the full cost, the full benefit that would affect the price of the car and the interest rate. And let me see if I can show you, preview the model a little bit. So students will start with a pre-test. And I think they're going to make me submit the test, but anyways, yeah. Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can get to it a better way here. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can send you this one as well, so you don't have to, if you haven't logged in, if you're not quite sure about logging in here, so I can show it to you this way. All right, here's a preview, and this is what I was hoping to see. So I will give that copy, and then what it shows you is, if you look on this left-hand side, you can look at all the national standards, the resources, a quick guide on it, and how much time it should take. 45 minutes. So let me send this. The moderator, sorry, are we done? I apologize. Okay. Did I go over my time already and I just was tone deaf? All right.
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have time.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's see. With that, I want to see, are there any other types of resources that you'd like to see, or any questions about Econ Lowdown, the Federal Reserve's, of St. Louis's resources in general, or anything else? Because I know this was a whirlwind. How many of you had heard about the Federal Reserve beforehand, or our resources beforehand? Yes, okay, good, 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 good. Okay, so some of you are already quite familiar. Good. No, good. I love seeing some no's as well. And I would love to put my email in the chat, so you
How do you explain the, excuse me, how do you explain the Bitcoin? Because it's not like really real.
So, our resources actually, there's a second one that I can show you actually, related to it. But I think the best way to do this is, one, to evaluate it as current, as a form of money. So economists have, and I don't know if this is a standard in your personal finance, but economists think about the functions of money. It's a store of value, it's a unit of account, and a few other, and one other thing. And so evaluating cryptocurrency on those metrics, it actually fails. So it doesn't perform well as money.
Right, because it's not tangible, so they can't see it or touch it, or so that's why,
Well, but you could argue like a credit card, right? Well, I guess you can touch the credit card, but anyways, Apple Pay or something like this. We are moving into more digital forms of payment, but cryptocurrency is not, it's not widely used yet, and so it makes it difficult to. That's one of the most important features, is that it needs to be widely available to everybody. And so first covering it that way, and then discussing it. Okay, now, does it work as an investment? Stay agnostic. I mean, you can stay agnostic about whether or not it has value. Is it working as an investment? And there you can show that it ends up basically following the stock market, but is much, much, much more volatile. But it is not at least right now, it's not a counter-cyclical investment. It doesn't seem to be moving in the same direction as gold, for example. So again, showing just graphs and data on that. But it is an extremely volatile investment. So you have to function, where you place it it's much, much riskier, right, than other things. And so, you're sort of giving them the relevant pieces of information on it. I hope that helped.